What you're about to watch is a special private training session for people who bought a copy of my book, Built to Serve. Enjoy. Welcome, welcome, welcome. The point of this group is to help you get value out of the book. Like, you bought the book, want you to make sure you get value out of it. That's not just sitting there on your shelf. I see it sitting there on Terry's shelf. I like it. And now we want to make sure that it's actually having an impact in your life. So we're going to do the topic of the day and then dive into questions, however I can serve help. The topic was, what if I run out of material to post? Okay, so this is interesting. It's something that I think we all face. We all struggle as we're creating content. I struggled a lot with too. And I realized that two things are really important. The first is you're always talking to new people. I've made over 10,000 videos on the channel, right? Not all of them are public, but 10,000 videos. Like, how much can you talk about belief 10,000 times? It's a lot. It's a lot of content. So it's always sharing a new version of it. You have your principles inside it, and then it's some new story that happened around it. So today in Movement Makers, for example, I shared a story about what happened to me on Tuesday and why I had to sleep in my kitchen. Good times. Even as me sharing that story, I'm sharing something that happened earlier today. So like, you have your main concepts, your main foundational elements, but there's always a new story that you can wrap it in. I don't always have to say the same story, but how I was 19 and struggled in my first business. You know, that story is still helpful, and the foundation story is really valuable sometimes. But I think it's fun, and it's a nice challenge as well to think about what's something that happened today, what's something that happened this week, where it's the same message, the same foundational principles, but you're doing it in a new way. Yesterday on my IG Live, I was coaching a woman who does CEO coaching, basically. She comes in and she coaches CEOs and trains organizations. So she teaches her 8 to 10 things. Like, well, what do I do when I run out of those 8 to 10 things? Well, you just always make it relevant to what's happening right now. So Jeff Bezos steps down from Amazon CEO. Great. Do you talk about transition? Yes. Perfect. Make a video on that. So even though you might have talked about transitioning leadership a million times, you could still go make a video now talking about Jeff Bezos, because a lot of people who look up to Jeff Bezos would now be thinking, should I quit? Like, should I step down? When is it time for me to step down from my business? Or when Elon Musk moved Tesla's factories from California to Texas, I mean, a lot of people think, should I move out of California? Should I be moving to Texas or Florida or come to Canada, or go somewhere else? Should I be doing that? It sparked the thinking. And so she could make content, same 8 to 10 core foundational messages, but making it more relevant to what's happening right now today. And so your choices there are something in the news cycle. So Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, whatever, but inside your industry, your own story. What have you gone through recently? So me sharing a story about sleeping in my kitchen instead of, some foundational story from way back, or coaching. Because when you're doing coaching, it's always somebody new. If Evan's going to come on and talk about how to recover from addiction, even though he might have helped tons of people, it's still somebody new. Somebody new is going to come in and not know all of Evan's strategies. And even though he might talk about, you have to create a daily journal and a plan for what you're going to do every day. I've been doing a high performance planner for the past 5 years or whatever he's been doing. Even though he might have shared that story a million times, it's new for that person, right? And so the strategies won't change all that much, but the people change. And so that's why you have to actually like teaching. I liken this to being a grade 10 math teacher. You're teaching the same thing every year. How does a math teacher teach the same thing every year? Because the great math teachers don't care about the content as much as they care about the students. You care about the students. So I could share the same story a million times even if I need to, because it's a different student every time coming through the door. So it's loving teaching more than the subject, loving the students more than your material. And when you can focus on the student and the teaching, then it doesn't feel as repetitive. The second thing is, just because they've heard it before doesn't mean that they got it. Right? How many times have you been told something, you did it once, you got a little bit of results, and then you stopped, right? I've done that. You've done that. We've all done that. So just because Evan says use a performance planner and somebody then does it, it doesn't mean that a week later they still don't need the same message, because they may not be doing it because they started it and say, oh yeah, that worked for me for 3 days. And then Thursday happened and I had that crazy morning and then I never did it again, right? So just because they've heard it before, it doesn't mean that they still don't need the message. Like I still need the message of belief for myself. So if I still need it, it means everybody watching still needs it as well. So that's how you never run out of content. One, don't assume that everybody's gone back and watched your entire archive of videos. That's not happening. And two, even if they have, don't assume that they got it. They still need you. They need you every day. They need your message every day. They need belief every day, or hope, or courage, or inspiration, or unbreakable on Terry's shirt, confidence for Zan. Like they need you every day to show up. Andrew says, repetition is the mother of learning, the father of action. Did he say that? The father of action? I didn't know that. Which makes the architect of accomplishment, says Zig Ziglar. Cool. So that's my quick rant on the topic, and love to open the floor. Questions, thoughts, ideas. So what can I do to bring value or help you on your movement?
Aaron, good evening. Hello, everyone. Hello from Israel. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. But sometimes, I have this feeling that, maybe I'm not enough to do whatever I need to do on YouTube, or bring that message out. And then that's my first block. And my second is, you kind of answered, is by what if I run out of material? I like the renewing based on what is happening today, but like the part that maybe I need to be a little bit better in order to serve people.
Yeah. So to the question of I'm not enough, like who am I? Who are you? Who's Yair in Israel to be the guy giving everybody advice on how to change their life, right? I mean, I think we all face this at some point in creating content. Imagine, what year is it now? 2021. So go back to 2016, Yair. What would you tell that guy? Like you get the quick message, you have 40 seconds or 60 seconds to tell him something, whisper in his ear. What would you tell 2016 Yair?
Believe, gratitude.
Yeah. So look, are you confident that you could help 2016 Yair?
Sure.
So recognize that there are millions of people who are 2016 Yair. Right? So you don't have to be Tony Robbins or whoever your hero is, Les Brown, Evan Carmichael. You don't have to be that person. You just have to go back and help the people who, like, that's how you get over imposter syndrome, is you help the people who currently are who you used to be. And Denzel Washington had a great line about life being a staircase. And Denzel Washington, if you guys don't know, Denzel is, dude's a prophet. Like he's amazing. He would have been a preacher. It was his backup career if the acting didn't work out. So his videos are fire. Every time you take a step up on the staircase of life, you then reach back and help somebody else get to your step. So you might be on step 18 of life, and Tony Robbins might be step 1,000. Great. Don't worry about the gap that you're not good enough to be at step 1,000. You're still at step 18, and that's more than step 2. And there's lots of people stuck at step 2. So just help them get to 18. And every time you grow, like tomorrow you're going to be 19 and the next day you're going to get to 20, you'll start climbing. And every time you climb, you can teach more. That's how I always come back. Because when I first started, I was just profiling Tony Robbins and these people. Then I started to interview and hang out with these people. And it's constant like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like I belong here. I'm not good enough. These guys have done all these great things. I still just go back to 19-year-old Evan when I was struggling a lot. It's like, could I help 19-year-old Evan? Heck yeah, like with absolute confidence, of course. Give me 10 minutes with 19-year-old Evan. I'm going to change that guy's life. Let's go. And so that's just what you got to tap into, is that don't worry about the Tony Robbinses of the world or whoever. It's 2016 Yair. That's who you're making content for. What does he need? And you can do that. Does that help? You were the one who asked the
amazing. Thank you.
Cool. Love it. What else? Bonnie in the house. Bonnie's doing it. Did you do your big audition today? Has it happened yet? She did it. Ain, how'd it go?
It went great. It was completely not what I expected. Have you heard of hold on, buddy. I think I asked you this already. Have you heard of the Voices of Victory group
No,
or Success Fest?
no.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not doubting the validity of these things, but it turned into a sales call very quickly. It's apparently a crowd-funded speaker platform. And like I said, I'm not knocking it. I'm just not that familiar with this.
Yeah.
He said I nailed the audition part of it because he was like talking and talking. All right, you've got 3 minutes, go. Like I was not, so I just had to like give a 3-minute quote unquote signature talk about being unbreakable and how I got to where I was. And
Did you wear the Unbreakable t-shirt though?
Yes.
Nice. There it is. Look at that. The matching duo here, Terry and Posh.
Yeah. And it you know, I used the transparency and everything. I was like, you know, I'm sweaty, I'm nervous, telling everybody how it is kind of thing. But I'm not sure if I'm gonna go through with it because I'm not sure I'm ready to pay to play to get into something like that.
That's fine. And listen, if it turns out to be a sales pitch and not for you, leave, right? It's fine. I think the best part of this is, so like backstory for people watching, Bonnie joined my gaming live stream for the past 2 days. We've been talking about this. And yesterday was asking how long I'm doing this presentation, but they haven't told me how long I need to present for. Do I prepare for like an elevator pitch? Do I prepare a 10-minute talk? Do I prepare? It's like, hey, I mean, write to them and ask just to get a sense. But if you don't find out, you know, the question was, well, should I postpone until I find out? Don't postpone. Lean into the unknown. And now she finds out, okay, you got 3 minutes, go. Because for all of you, it's great practice to be able to give a 60-second speech, a 3-minute speech, a 10-minute speech, a 1-hour presentation, a 3-day workshop. It's all great practice. And ideally, we know in advance who we're talking to and you know, be prepared. But don't let the lack of knowing prevent you from saying yes. It's a great experience. Like, even if it ends up for Bonnie being a sales pitch and like, okay, I'm not going to join these guys. Just the experience of not knowing what you're going to talk about or not knowing how long you're going to talk about it for. And then being told, okay, 3 minutes, Bonnie, go. That's great practice. That's a great experience because that stuff happens, right? I did a training earlier on today. It was 55 minutes inside of a high level kind of paid mastermind where I was the guest speaker. And most of it, I didn't even know what was going on. You know, I just showed up. Okay, Evan, we're going to talk about YouTube. Okay, great. So I shared 3 big ideas about YouTube, and then we did jam session Q&A, and ended up with way more questions than we had time for. And that used to terrify me. The idea of showing up on somebody's show or in somebody's program or go on somebody's stage and not know what I was supposed to do or what the questions would be would make me say, no, I'm not going to do it. And that limited my growth earlier on, where you just have to know that you've got great material inside you. You've got a great message inside you. And ideally we get a little bit of structure so you know what you're doing, but that can't be a good enough reason for you not to show up. 3-minute, 5-minute, 10-minute, hour long. Yes, I'm in. Let's go.
Here's a tip for Bonnie. Call them back and say, hey, I'm intrigued by what you've got. It sounds like it's some kind of speakers bureau thing. They're going to promote you or something, and say, terrific. Can you tell me about 2 other people who subscribe to this service, and can I contact them to find out how their results have been? See what happens then.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Ultimately, I get 20 minutes to speak by signing up. And it's like a 3-day event virtual event that they put on, and they pre-record each person's, I guess, talk and then rotate them. So you could be on once, you could be on as many as 3 times. It's great exposure, I think, because they apparently have like a audience of 48 to 73,000 people, something to that effect. So it's not a terrible idea. I was just under the impression that it was a training program. And
so they probably run it before. And if they run it before, talk to one of the speakers who did it before and find out what their experience was.
Okay, I'll do that. Thanks for the tip. Appreciate it.
That's some senior citizen advice right there. Look at that. He's getting even wiser now. I'd also, Bonnie, if you are interested in it, join as a participant. If 4,000 people are in there, say, hey, how can I just see how it looks? Let me join as a participant the next time, and then see if that's a group of people that you want to be talking to on a future one.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
Cool.
Evan, this is less relevant to me because I'm not pushing as hard as some of the folks are to be on YouTube. But I remember a woman saying that repeating a lot of her material ended up being a little counterproductive because of the YouTube algorithm. And she said, oh, this wasn't good because my current people didn't come back or something. And so I'm a little confused by all that. But is there any possibility that reworking or repurposing some of your content could be counterproductive on YouTube?
Not if done properly. So, you know, if you're looking at you with time studies, right? And Mark's one of the best in the world at time studies, evaluating where people spend their time, has data upon data points for decades of measuring people's time across all kinds of organizations. You know, you've learned some lessons. And you've learned, like, if you had your top 10 list of lessons that you've learned, you're probably telling organizations versions of the same thing every time you go and you give them feedback. There's some minutiae differences, et cetera. But for the most part, there's the main principles that you offer. If you were to make videos on time studies, and I don't know who your friend, you know, is or what content she's making, but if you're making on time studies and you're helping people be productive, well, there's only so many. Is there that much difference in the productivity books from one to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other? Is there that much difference in the habit books from one to the other, to the other? The trick is to make it contextual to 2021, to July 2021. So, you know, if you sharing some data point from 1992, it's like, who cares? It's not relevant to me as much anymore. But if you could talk about something that's happening right now, how does productivity during COVID, productivity, you know, looking at Amazon and, you know, the work culture and peeing in bottles and all that kind of stuff. How does that impact their productivity? Do you have a take on that? And your principles still bleed through all of the modern day examples, but we're just making it contextual so it's relevant. If you just had the same video on repeat, then yes, people will get bored. But again, just because you told somebody one of your principles of time management or productivity, I don't think you like the word time management. Do I remember that? Is that correct?
Yeah, sure.
So productivity, just because you told them, it doesn't mean they're going to go off and now be the most productive person of all time. So that's the goal. Every time you tell a new story, every time you make it contextual for today, a little bit more seeps into them. So it's in the execution. If you just showed up and basically repeated the same video over and over and over and over again, then sure, they'll get bored, you'll get bored, nobody's going to grow. The trick is you're taking your 8 to 10 principles and then making it relevant to what's happening right now.
Can I just share something from an accountability standpoint?
Yeah.
I finally found a good full-time assistant for me in this business with my other employees, which has given me a lot more time. So I'm going to start writing more consistently.
Nice.
And then I put this out there. I just shared one to the other group. I'm working on my skydive certification. So just some inspiration. I'm doing like from alcoholic to actually Ironman, because I enrolled in my first half Ironman yesterday, and I'm going to document that journey.
Nice.
So
from alcoholic to Ironman.
Yeah.
I like it.
So day one.
I like it. And are you videoing each step?
Yeah, actually I started yesterday when I got my first 10-week running program from my trainer, my nutritionist, and I'm going to document the whole thing. Like got a doctor's appointment at to go get my feet done. I have flat feet. I'm just to the bike fitting. I'm going to take it the whole way through. And
Nice.
The same thing, I just did my 6th skydive in Hawaii, and I shared 2 15-second clips to the Movement Maker, just like, hey, here's how I celebrate life now. But I'm doing my first solo in August, and at 25, I get my certification. I will be a professional skydiver. So it's more about, I want to document all that of like, 4 years ago this month, I sat in that chair and I put a loaded gun to my head, seriously. And now here I am 4 years later. So I want to put that out as a better story for people, that it can apply to all areas of life, not just addiction. Like when you think you're at rock bottom, best foundation.
I love it, dude. And you know, from the day I met you, you've always cared about giving and serving and always voicing and trying to help people. And even from when you won the prize of like coming and being one of the 3 people to do the one-on-one with me after you spent most of that time helping the other 2 instead of asking questions for yourself, which I appreciate. It's just a consistency, man. I mean, for you, it's just been the consistency. You've got the heart, you've got the message, you've got the crazy story to tell that will actually save lives. Like, I mean, I do work that saves lives, but how many people die because of the things that you can help them with? And so I'm excited if it's the assistant or if this journey that's actually the thing that gets you consistently doing the thing, can have a huge impact.
Yeah, it gets me out of the office. I don't have to do the day-to-day mundane stuff. Like I check out at like 1 o'clock now, and it gives me just the whole afternoon to do whatever.
Cool. So for people here, Instagram, where's the best way to follow the actual process?
Well, I'm doing too. My Instagram, I've been doing a lot more the last couple of weeks. Even when I was on vacation, I did some stuff, and then I've been posting it as I got back. And then I'm going to start doing it on my YouTube, both of which are just my name.
Cool.
So
congrats, man.
Thanks. More to come.
I love it. I love it. Stay tuned.
I have another question, Evan. So if I end up doing this thing, I have basically like a week to prepare a 20-minute talk. And I kind of timed that out as writing. It's like 3 minutes per page or something is kind of how it works out. So I have like 6 pages of information. How the heck do you keep your train of thought going? Like, keep yourself on track. And I know telling stories and lessons is important, and the 3 big points that you have to make, and like the intro and outro, and you know how you want to make people feel. Like, I understand all that kind of technical or contextual parts, but like the one thing I found myself doing today, and now I also know I need more practice, but like I was losing my train of thought because I was so nervous, and it was only 3 minutes. And when I did the 2-minute drill, that was only 2 minutes, but I literally had that memorized word for word because it was super important to get in the information I needed to get in that 2 minutes. So memorizing it was pretty much necessary to remember everything and then convey the points that I was trying to make. I'm sure people don't memorize an entire 20-minute talk, or maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, your goal shouldn't be to have everything memorized. If I'm you, I would memorize my opening. Like, what's the opening couple lines of it, or the first line, or even how you want to show up, how you want to stand, what you're going to do with your body. Like, just memorizing that, because it does 2 things. One, it gets you started, but 2, it once you get into the flow of things become so much easier. Even when I'm nervous backstage, right? Brendan brings me on stage or whatever. It's the backstage that's the worst, because they're hyping you up. You're getting ready. You hear the cheers. You go see what Brendan did. Like, oh my God, I got to follow that. It's all of that, terrifyingness behind the scenes. And it's funny because nobody talks to the speaker who's up next. Whoever's up next for the 15 minutes before they go on stage, the speaker's usually just by themselves doing whatever Brendan's like patting himself and like doing all this stuff to himself backstage and jumping before he goes on. Everybody's got their own little mini routine. But having that opening down just gets the ball rolling. And once the ball's rolling and you're confidently getting the ball rolling, it's easier to keep going. So if I'm you, I would have a opening that you nail, and then just point form what you want to make sure that you're covering. And then practice it, pace it, walk it, have your point form in front of you, see how long it took you to get through it, see where you can tighten it up, then film it, watch it back and see where you struggled or where you stumbled or like wasn't as good. And I'll never hit if I'm doing a 20-minute speech or an hour-long speech, I'll never hit all the things that I had on my point form list. It's never exactly like I laid it out. And in all of my practice sessions are never exactly like the last one was either. But I'm getting most of the points in, and I'm kind of back to the main theme. So if you're talking about being unbreakable, you might miss one of the points. It's okay, because the points that you shared were still powerful. So opening sequence, including how you want to show up, where you want to stand, what your body posture is going to look like. And then, first sentence, and then just point form, like your whole speech should fit on a sticky note. Point form, and then walk through, and you're going to tell the story, meeting Terry. That's it. And then that's a 3-minute story about meeting Terry, right? dancing with Zan, and then that's an 8-minute story of dancing with Zan, or, whatever, right? My kids. And it's just that those point forms. And if you end up getting to the day and you do the speech and you forget to tell the Zan story, it's not the end of the world because you told all the other ones as well. So I'm a big fan of keeping it simple. I love the sticky note format. For a 2-minute video, I get it for a pitch, but for a 20-minute, it's just, if you try to memorize the whole thing, what ends up happening is if you miss a line, you're screwed. And it's really hard to get back on track. So your goal should be to be able to show up and do your speech. And it's a great skill to learn because you're gonna be, Clubhouse is a great training ground for you, but you'll be getting a lot of interviews and podcasts and interviews and sessions where you don't know what's coming, you don't know how long you have, and you need to be able to roll with it. And just know that your message is powerful enough and that you are good enough to be able to give a great message, even if you don't know and it's not perfect.
Thank you for that. I love interview style, but like I said earlier today, a lot of the interviews I've done lately are more, tell us a little about yourself, and then me talking for 45 minutes straight.
Well,
stopping and asking if they have questions. But I feel for some reason, I don't put the same weight on, or maybe it's just because I'm used to doing them now. I don't get nervous. I'm logging in 7 minutes before, making sure all my stuff is ready, and then I just have a conversation with somebody.
Yeah, there's levels to it, right? Like if Tony Robbins is going to interview you, you'd be a lot more nervous than just showing up on Clubhouse and seeing what happens, right? So
That's true.
There's levels to it, but that's fine. And that's what you want. Like you want to keep leveling up. So for you to come on and do a 3-minute speech, now it's really nerve-wracking. But if you do a bunch of them, it's not going to be as scary. But then if Brendan asks you to do a 3-minute speech, or Dave asks you to come on his show and do a 3-minute speech, you'd be going back to being nervous again. And that's okay. Like that's a sign that you're growing and you're getting better and you're increasing your standards, right? So it's fine. But overall, your message, all of you, your message can be something that is 30 seconds up to 4-day workshop intensive. And you need to be able to play everywhere in that range and know that you have enough content, enough material, and enough heart to carry people through and make the impact that you're trying to make. If you want to get a copy of Built to Serve and join us live for our next training with me to ask your questions, you can go get the book right there next to me, right there. I'll see you there. I'll see you to get the book. It's a good one. Much love.